Hello everyone and welcome to our Circle and Salve Women. Today I'm going to talk about a movie that my husband and I recently came across to watch, and that is, along with the gods, The Two Worlds. And it is by Kim Yong-hwa. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Again, in no means to ever be disrespectful in pronouncing a name. This is, to me, anytime, no, we don't watch TV at all, really, hardly, if any. And when we do watch a movie, we like to binge with our family, and we always try to pick something that we feel would have a very deep meaning where we can ponder upon and reflect upon and would help us grow. Now, this, I want you to take away anything that's religious of it on any matter of it, you know, for the message to really come through and make you reflect upon it, because to me, I always feel that God is in your heart, like my papa always taught me. And so whatever message that you get out of it is something that will help you grow and, you know, grow brighter and grow stronger from it all, and just making you ask for just your own reflection of where would you be or how would you fare based off of the story plot. And so this is just such a remarkable movie. It talks about the seven hells, and I know you're like, oh my goodness, does that even exist? Well, in this movie it does, and it really talks about how we go through trials before we could ever enter the afterlife. And so this main character, he's a firefighter, which is, to me, you know, already you're thinking to yourself, wow, you know, this is a guy who has taken on the role in his flesh and life of something meaningful, something that was helpful for anyone who ever came across to him, saving them or their family members and so forth. So we know that this man, you know, was an honorable man before he passed away. Now, in fact, he passed away saving a life. And this actor is Kim Yong-hwa, I believe, in the movie. That's his character name. And so he goes through the 49 days of trial, and he is defended. He has to go through these trials, but he's being defended, thankfully, by three guardians that have been chosen to lead him the way. And what's fascinating there is that these are guardians also that know that he's a paragon. And a paragon is definitively someone that is holy, someone who has been so noble in life that they are that exquisite, that very rare find. And so when they discovered that he's a paragon, they were very excited, because they also know that if and when Kim Jong-un actually goes through all of the trials and passes through it, he is actually the 48th. And if he can go through, hopefully I remember that, if he can go through the 48th, then they would only have one more, and they too can be reincarnated. And they would be reincarnated based off of their choice. And so even one of them was saying, I'm going to be, you know, this very, believe like the stockbroker or so, and, you know, just fascinating things in their mind that they can concoct of thinking, you know, once I go through all of these paragons, and you would be the 48th, the 49th, you know, one after that, then we would be reincarnated as well. So imagine how many years in life now, because it comes like every, goodness, was it like less than a decade every time that they have a paragon coming through. So they're a rarity. So they were very excited, and they spent pretty much years, you know, if not hundreds of years, in being a guardian to defend all that have come through the gates of all these different hells, right? Seven hells. And so they are very excited to meet this man. Now, it goes from the least type of sin that you've ever committed to then, of course, the very end, where would be the one that had the heaviest type of sin. And it depends on the person. So the very first one that Kim Jong-un goes through is the hell of murder. Now, you're thinking to yourself, well, he's a firefighter. Of course, there are going to be times where he's going to run into death. And indeed he does. But the one that they had, there's a way for them to actually go back into your life and show you how you've lived, which to me is just like fascinating to go, wow, if I was to look back, this is what you know, how would I see myself in this situation? If I was actually being if I had to reflect upon the hell of murder, have I ever killed? And the answer to that would be no. But here's the catch to that too, is it could also be indirect. So you may have not committed the murder, but if you've led someone to murder for you, you would also be tried in that very same manner. And so for him, it was more that he had come across a time where he had to choose between his partner, a firefighter, and saving more people. Now, what was at first, you're thinking to yourself, wow, he just left his partner to die. But then they show that he actually was told by his partner, go save these people. I will be here waiting for you. You will come back for me, and so forth. And to me, it was it's those heavy moments when you look and you just know that this is what we do, right? As frontliners, you save people, and you say to yourself, just go, help everybody else, and leave me behind. And as a teacher, I've told my students many times, anytime that we have emergency drills, if there were anything to happen, leave me behind, because if I was to be knocked unconscious, I would have to stay here for everybody else, and so forth. And just go. And it's very hard for them to, you could tell, take that in and say, it's okay, I'm giving you permission. And so this other firefighter actually did give him permission. He saved how many that day. And they actually asked him, how many think you saved that day? And he said, I don't know. I think he gave a number, 6 or 7. He said, well, actually, you're being very humble. You lost count. It was actually, I think, 9 lives that you saved that day. And so just to think that he may have lost a partner's life, they saved that many. He saved that many by making that choice. And he was, besides himself, of course, trying to go back into the burning building, trying to save his partner, but it was much too late. And so he was forgiven because of the decisions, that decision that he had to make. And it did show that his partner gave him that permission to do so, because that's their job, that's their duty. The next one was hell of indolence. And this is that part where you kind of go, wow, have I ever been lazy? Have I ever idled? And you go to and you're like, yeah, I have. I mean, there are times where I'm just like, I don't and you're just hoping that no one is asking you to get up and do anything. As a mother or as a teacher, you're always on your toes. And sometimes when students think that you're just sitting down looking at them, you actually are taking a moment to breathe. And even when your spouse is talking to you and they catch you because you know that you had stopped listening to them 5 minutes ago, and they go, what do you think? You're like, oh no, I'm stuck because I don't even know how to respond. I stopped listening like 5 minutes ago. You do take those moments where you are just idling, and you have to ask yourself, was I just being lazy at that moment? So this one with Kim Jong-hwa really explaining, he almost fell into the fires of hell for this one, because he actually he was so noble in saying, I did it for money. And as soon as he said that, because they were like, oh my goodness, you did this and you did that for a living, and you took on so many roles, and you went from a firefighter, and then you worked at night, and you did this, and he had worked odd jobs, and he admitted, I did it for money. And yet they revealed that he had an ailing mom, and he was helping his brother go through school. And so he was again forgiven. And so you have to reflect and ask yourself, wait, did my laziness have any justification? Did my idleness have any justification? Because here was a guy who was falling asleep, it's sometimes just because he was just trying to take a rest to move on to yet another position, another role. And so you have to reflect and go, would I have entered the gates of hell and the fires of hell because they would have seen me as someone who just wasted my life away? And isn't that interesting that is one judgment, right, in this movie, of you wasting a life that you have been gifted? I just thought that was just fascinating, just that on its own, like, wow, that's actually, hell of indolence is actually something that could happen, where you're being judged on how you lived your life. Next one is hell of deceit. And this one, to me, when you watch this, again, it's such a movie and it's so deep, but you have to ask yourself, how many times have you deceived someone? You know, when they say it's okay to give those small little tiny lies, you know, when someone is asking you, you just know that it would just warm their heart to say something that would give them strength, would magnify their very existence to themselves. And you know, it's just sometimes pretending. I love to pretend. Sometimes I don't know, and it sounds silly, but I was like, oh, tell me about it, you know, or I don't know. And oh goodness, free information you get from the world when all of a sudden you give people power to give you information. And you know, you may think, okay, I already know this, but the more they talk, you think to yourself, wow, I'm knowing even more now. And you grow so much by just pretending not to know, because then people are really willing to then share you their perspective, their vantage point. And you know, I'm sure many of us have come to that point where you go, I learned so much more from that just because I allowed you to give me that information. So the hell of deceit that Kim Jong-hwa runs into here is that he wrote letters to his mom, just lies. And he also wrote letters to children of deceased parents because he wanted to give them hope, like just continue to do well in school. Just such heartfelt moments where, you know, he gave false hope because those children actually knew that their parents had passed away, and they admitted that they knew, but yet they showed much into this trial that even though they did know, it gave them hope, and it gave them that somehow that imagination that as long as they continue to do well, that their parent who had passed away would be still proud of them. In addition to his mom, he lied and said, I have a wife, I have a son, and you know, all of these things that he would write to his mom because he had not come home for so long, just to give her this warm feeling inside. We know, you know, where you want people to feel good and just know that you are safe. And I can't imagine how many soldiers have had to say that. I've read stories where just to give them that comfort and just saying I'm okay, all is well. And they could be in the midst of, you know, fire, and they're writing these letters, you know, just because it just also gives them hope that time will get better, life will get better, and this is just a moment that I'm going through. And it's just, when you really see this scene, you say to yourself, I get it. I get that deceit. And so once again, he's forgiven. So he goes through that, and luckily he goes through the hell of injustice and hell of betrayal, and in that way, you know, they're like, okay, you pass through this one. And you know, I mean, the climax, if you know plots, right, the climax of the story, you know, when they let you pass through certain parts, you just go, here it comes, you know, here's the big bang, right? And all of a sudden, when he gets into the hell of violence, you see that when they were young, he beats on his malnutrition brother. And we say malnutrition because they were very poor and they came from very, very hard times. And so he's beating on his younger brother. And that is unforgivable. You do not beat on your younger brother who also is suffering from malnutrition. And at that point, he is about to just face the wraths of hell, right? And all of a sudden, his guardians are like, hold on, let's do a double trial here. Let's, please, I beg of you, I know this doesn't happen, but they actually, to me, this was the deepest part, is they actually put themselves on the line. Like, if he is found guilty in the seventh trial, then we lose all that we have been working on. Now remember, they only needed one more to actually be reincarnated if they succeed in getting everyone, you know, every paragon through these 7 trials. And because they believe so much in Kim Jong-hwa, that they were saying to the you know, each of the, I forget who they are, basically the judges, right? If they all of a sudden are found guilty, they lose all of that and they have to start all over again. And we're talking about years of guardianship that they have to go through, and hundreds of years, because I think it was like, I don't even know, a decade or so every time they run into a paragon. So imagine how many times they would have to wait again. So they put their life on that, and they're really their own. They just sacrifice just to believe so much in him. And at the end, this is where I really have to ask myself, like, when you reflect and you are trying not to be tearful, and for me, that's when you give yourself, you save the tears for when it just comes out, right? You don't try to fight it, because that's when real pain comes out. And when I see this very last part where he is actually trying to smother his mother, you think right away, he's going to hell, and everybody else is going to end up going down with him, because how dare you, try to smother your mother. And yet they connected with the hell of violence where he was beating on his malnutrition brother. And it just so happens that his brother also sadly passes away after him, and he had not been aware of that. And sometime along the way, he had then been made aware. And then also, this is when they expose the mom dreaming, because she is unconscious in the real world, and they show that she actually saw. She had opened her eyes when she saw that he was going to try to smother her, and she, because she is mute, she never ever told him that she always knew. And you're going to have to watch the movie to know how it ends, because to me, I as a mother, just could see and ask myself, would I have said anything? Would I have done anything? Would I have made him feel shameful for even attempting to smother me? Or would I have just kept silent and just kept it in and let him work through life his own way and have forgiven him? Because that was the biggest piece. And in reflecting all of it through all of this, you just have to ask yourself in every one of these trials, where do you stand? And that is where my article really focuses on, is in the hell of murder. Where would you stand there? Where would you fare if you were to be tried for committing murder or indirectly causing someone else's life to be taken away? Where you be in the hell of indolence, where there's laziness or idleness in your life, where you wasted the gift of life that you have been given? And so where would you fare there? The hell of deceit. Have you been so deceitful in lying to people to a point where their lives have been affected in negative ways and impacted negatively? And have you contributed to that? Where are you in your hell of deceit? Where are you in your hell of injustice, where you've committed injustice in people's lives so that that whatever you've done is unforgiven? Where are you in your hell of betrayal, so that you have actually betrayed people through your lives and through your actions? And was it justified cause? And did you know, were you willing to just continue forth even though you knew that you had performed an act of injustice? And did you continue to do it with ill will? And was your heart darkened and you continued anyway? Or did you stop? And then, of course, the hell of violence. Have you hurt anyone purposefully, where you have taken away their sense of safety, where they felt that all of a sudden maybe you were the protector, and yet you took away their sense in them that anyone is ever safe, that you have now made them feel that there is no such thing? And have you ever hurt someone to a point where then they had to all of a sudden arrive to hopelessness and arrive to fear and doubt, and that they wanted to take their life away because you put so much violence into their lives that it was better for them to think to escape into death than to continue to be with you? Just think about that. And then lastly, that hell of unfilial impiety. I forgot to mention the very last part was unfilial impiety, and some of you may say unfilial or unfilial, but this is the part where you then go against that God's saying that you have no right to take someone else's life away, and that you have really put yourself in eternal damnation by really just taking on that role as if you are the one to judge, that you are the one to make decisions for everybody else's life, that now all of a sudden you have forgotten God, and that you all of a sudden say to yourself that there is no God. Wherever you are in life, to me it is, whatever stage you're in, is there still goodness in you where you say, it doesn't matter how much I believe in God and how much I don't believe in God, but am I still moving on with a goodness in my heart to say to myself, if and when He does reveal to me, that He does exist, where will I be in my goodness in my heart to, of doing the right thing? And am I there? And have I forgiven myself for the times where I may have wronged someone or myself, those around me, or indirectly? Where will I be on Judgment Day? Because it would be beautiful to really, see the bright light, and to be in a place where there's no more crying and no more tears, just tears of joy, and no more pain, no more sickness, and to be in that world rather than the wraths of hell, where all of these places where you hear, would be unlivable for the rest of your life. And I still remember this part of the Bible where there's this guy that had said, hey, I think he was trying to reach out to Abraham, and can you bring Lazarus over here and tell him to warn my brothers, because this is not a place that they would want to be. And it's interesting because then he was told, it's much too late for your brothers. And I think to myself, is it really too late for any of us to do the right? No matter how far away we are from God, no matter how far we've fallen, are we still saying to ourselves, I can still turn and do good no matter what, and turn it around? I do believe. So in the words of my mother, God bless us all. May you embrace you no matter where the cracks may fall. Just know it is not up for you to judge. There's only one, and you can only do your best and embrace the becoming of you one day at a time. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time. Have a great day, everybody.